Hey, what's up, guys? Listen, bringing you new information in the Shanquella Robinson case. What are we talking about? The reporter that has been covering this says that Mexico has run into a problem. What is that? They do not have enough information to process Dejanay Jackson. You heard it here. They do not have enough information to process Dejanay Jackson. We're going to get into that recap, but also we're going to have a larger conversation, y'all. Is it time, and I think it is, to start demanding that the U.S. government refuse to extradite and prosecute her on this soil? Guys, whatever you've been hearing about it's not possible, how are they going to investigate? I'm here to tell you it is all a lie. It is 100% possible. There are legal examples, and by legal examples, I mean things that just happened last year. But first, let's talk about where Mexico is in their extradition. Let's talk about how it's not an open and shut case, according to Mexico authorities. And let's talk about why they need the Cabo6 to testify. And let's also talk about why Mexico is bringing no charges up to date against the Cabo6, and they can refuse to testify outside of those subpoenas. All right, let's get into this. Where do we start off first? Okay, let's start off with the first thing. The reporter that covers this says there are three different testimonies as to where Shanquella's body was found. There's the maid that said she found her naked in the bathroom. There's Nasir Wiggins, who actually said, and according to the reporter, actually gave a statement on his Instagram. I don't think it was a statement to the police, because then they wouldn't need the Cabo6 to testify, but made a statement in Instagram that he found her in the game room. And there's also the doctor that said she found her in the living room. They said to actually find out where Shanquella's body was found, they need to talk to Dejanay. They need Dejanay to confirm where the body was found. Now, to watch, I say this: who cares? Who cares where her body was found? Now, again, it makes a difference. But when it comes to prosecuting Dejanay Jackson, it makes zero difference where her body was found, because Dejanay, according to the autopsy and time, you had to be the last person. That luxation did not happen from her tripping over something. You were the cause from it. Now, where those three people say that they were found might implicate the Cabo6. It might implicate them in evidence tampering, crime scene tampering. They might even be conspiring to cover up. They assisted, they are co-conspirators. Maybe they even participated in the final moments of Shanquella's life and are responsible. You guys know what I think about that, right? The reason why everybody is covering for Dejanay Jackson is because maybe they are all culpable, and it looks like they're covering for Dejanay Jackson, but they're covering for themselves. But let's get this, right? They keep saying, and according to him, it is not directly from the AG, but that Mexico needs Dejanay there for more evidence so they can move. No, I'm sorry, they need the Cabo6 there so they can testify against Dejanay and she can be held accountable. We have the video. We have the injuries. We have the autopsy. At this point, Mexico still thinks that they need those other people's witness to what? Place Dejanay as the last person that talked to her, get a confession. There is video confession and there is an autopsy. Why is the Cabo6 testimony necessary to get Dejanay in check? The only obvious answer, of course, if the reporter is to be believed, the only obvious answer is one thing. Mexico at this point does not believe they have enough evidence to prosecute Dejanay for the murder of Shanquella Robinson. This would explain perhaps why it is taking an insane amount of time and effort to get the Cabo6. They have been allegedly subpoenaed, but to actually bring charges up against the Cabo6. Now, I'm not saying all of them are guilty. I'm saying with the evidence at hand, it is very unlikely that only Dejanay Jackson is guilty. Why do they need that? What is taking so long? This leads me into the larger conversation. Mexico, it seems like, I don't want to say they're playing in our faces, but I feel like the U.S. government is playing in our faces. I have said this before. If you guys don't know, We do not need Mexico to press charges. We don't even need Mexico alone to investigate. The FBI can join forces with Mexico, and Mexico can work with the FBI so that an investigation can be conducted on Mexico soil, right? They give their permission, they call them in, they work together, and then the FBI takes that information. The FBI takes that information and they use it to actually make a case in America. Now, let's talk about this because it's something that nobody wants to admit. It is taking too long. The fact that Mexico feels they have no evidence, or in their minds, there is nothing under the Mexican statute of laws to hold the Cabo6 accountable at all. There's nothing, not one thing to hold them accountable. No reason. The most that they can get are subpoenas to come and testify against Dejanay Jackson, but they've asked for permission for subpoenas. They've asked for permission for that subpoena to be recognized. Now, hear me out on this. Extradition is one thing, but is there something in our treaty to force American citizens to cross into a foreign country and to testify in a trial? Is there a legal mechanism for that? And if there's not a legal mechanism for that, what are the odds that the Cabo6 are actually going to be, well, without Dejanay, the Cabo5 are actually going to be held accountable for their options? Now, for the people that say, and again, I hate to be nihilistic. I hate to say, oh my God, like they're messing up the investigation. But at this point, maybe this is above Mexico's head. The FBI needs to step in. Why have they not? Now, let's talk about why the FBI has not stepped in, because there is the case of, I believe it is Matthew Taylor. He was a man in San Diego. He drove from San Diego to Rosarito, Mexico. He unalived his 10-month-old and his 2-year-old. Very, very tragic. He was literally picked up. He was picked up in the US. Mexico said, extradite him. He needs to be held accountable. The acting attorney general, U.S. attorney of all the U.S. attorneys in America said, no, we are not sending him back. You don't understand, even though we have a treaty, two things, and this is the way to get around the treaty, and they did this, just happened in fall of 2021. Two ways to get around the treaty. They said, no. Number one, this has rocked the community. This has bewildered the community. This has disgusted the community. And for the community's sake, there needs to be closure, and he needs to be prosecuted so the community feels safe, and know that somebody was held accountable. Second thing, what he did was so heinous, right? Killing his two children. What he did was so heinous that we feel that the death penalty might be warranted. Are you going to give him the death penalty? Well, we don't know. We're keeping our options open. But if we send him to Mexico, because then Mexico does not believe in the death penalty, it's off the table. So we're going to keep him here just in case we want to push for the death penalty. Now, they did not end up pushing for the death penalty. He is serving years in jail. As anybody knows, he's already been convicted and whatnot. He did not agree. They did not agree to give the death penalty. But that's the way America stopped the extradition. One, it's something that shocked and just ripped apart the community. I feel like Shanquella's death has shocked and ripped apart the North Carolina community, right? The Charlotte, North Carolina. I believe it has. Let's look at the second factor. We want to keep the table. We want to keep the death penalty on the table. Do you know who else has a death penalty? Do you know who else? North Carolina has a death penalty. If the USA wanted to, they could cut them off at the knees, deny extradition, keep her here, keep all of them here. But where are they going to get the evidence? The evidence is all in Mexico. That is true. But like in the Matthew Taylor case, if you actually read the press release from the Department of Justice, they worked hand in hand with the Mexico authorities to gather evidence in Mexico, because all of the crime happened in Mexico. Even the bodies were recovered in Mexico. They worked hand in hand to investigate everything in Mexico. And the FBI worked with them. And then they took that information to America. But the FBI also worked with them when they are on Mexico soil. FBI can't run rampant by themselves, but if they're working as invited over, they can come and work, help process. At the end of it, they thank the Mexican Attorney General. They thank this person, they thank that person, and this guy went to jail. Do you know that the murders happened August the 8th? I believe that they literally, in that month's time, collected all the evidence, refused extradition, and indicted him in America in less than 4 weeks' time. In less than 4 weeks' time. And they had less evidence than they do now with Shanquella. Look at the Ohio murderers. We've talked about this before. The judge, he got picked up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and the judge at 9 a.m. in the morning approved extradition. He then had a separate hearing, not for extradition, he had a separate hearing to fight extradition. They said, nada, and they still shipped him over there. Okay, so he didn't have like an extradition hearing a few days later. The judge approved extradition the same morning the same morning he was picked up, which means that they approved it the same day that the warrant was issued. And then there's a bail hearing that happens, and there's also a hearing, I believe, a hearing for you to fight extradition. That all happened a few days later. This happened into how many days into them catching the person? Now, look at Desjardins, right? Look at Desjardins. I do believe that Desjardins is, for one, under a provisional arrest. However, it makes me look at the Mexico case as they're gathering paperwork, because provisional arrest, they pick you up. I did a whole video there. I'm not going to get into law, but they pick them up, right? And they hold you while they're getting the paperwork together for the extradition. However, and Mexico feels that they need to subpoena the Cabo6. How good is the evidence? How deep is the evidence? Why has our government not gotten involved? For whatever reason, Mexico feels like the evidence they have is not good enough, And last but not least, for those that say they can't prosecute, I don't know who started the ridiculous rumor that an American can go to foreign soil and kill another American citizen and come back home, and that's not illegal in America. What do you think we are, a country of jackals? It makes no sense. I don't care who told you that. Go ahead and check your notes. It is under USC Criminal Code, the U.S. Criminal Code, Section 18, Chapter 18, Section 119. This is the same statute that Matthew Taylor, it's a huge thing, Google it, Matthew Taylor, San Diego, unalive children, that he was persecuted under in federal court. And it says it is a criminal offense under this section for a U.S. national to murder another U.S. national outside the United States if the murder occurred within the jurisdiction of a foreign country. That's right. He was charged with foreign murder of a United States national, 2 counts, 1 for each of his offspring. Now, as gruesome as that was, the family got justice, and the family got justice quickly. You look at the Ohio killers. They found, the Idaho killers. They found, right? They found the guy. They picked him up. Extradition approved. We move on. You guys, we're going to wait for more information, but it is 100% time. We demand that the U.S. government take over this, deny extradition. Mexico is taking too long. And again, I don't mean to put everything in Mexico's hands. I feel like the U.S. government is dropping the ball. They can be more involved. They can help with the investigation. As far as subpoenas to testify, they can pick the Cabo6 up right now and interview them. And just like in the Meg Thee Stallion, that pre-interview, if it's like actually an affidavit, not an affidavit, but if it's a deposition, they can use that in trial with Desjardins under the criminal treaty. All this stuff can happen. So why isn't it? Why isn't it? Why are we sitting here on YouTube waiting for updates from reporters and bloggers. And, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm not including the family in this. The family is without reproach. I'm not including the family. But why are we, and again, that's no shade to reporters, to bloggers, to this, to that. North Carolina Beat has done an excellent job. People that have been researching on Hollywood Next, excellent job. Chronicle Speaks, excellent job. There's so many people doing, lead attorney, excellent job in covering this. Okay. But my question is, why has it fallen, right, to the mouths of bloggers, reporters? Why? So many legal analysis. When is our government going to be involved? When is our government going to do something? And if you guys are still sitting there, not y'all, but the people in the back still sitting there and be like, you don't understand. Justice moves slow. Yeah, I know. In this case, justice moves slow. In this case, justice started crawling. In this case, at this point, I'm wondering whether justice is even going to move. You guys, it's time to ring the alarm bell. There is a real threat that this will fall under the radar and justice will not be served. It's time to actually ask questions and ask our government why they will not get involved, refuse to extradite. We as Americans and say, keep them on the soil. We don't want her going anywhere. You realize that, right? One of the reasons they use to stop extraditions, and the US government does it every single time they want, is to say, no, we want to try them on this soil because this has been devastating to our community. Forget your country, our community, the San Diego community, the North Carolina community, San Diego with Matthew Teller, North Carolina, and the Charlotte, North Carolina community when it comes to Shanquella. So again, what is the excuse now? Because at this point, we don't know what's happening with Mexico, but one thing we do know is our government's doing nothing. And I will 100% want Dejanay prosecuted at a state that has harsh penalties as opposed to being in limbo with Mexico. Because at this point, especially considering what the sources are saying, what is going on? Whether the maid found her naked, Nasir found her in the game room, and whatchamacallit, and a doctor finding her fully clothed have to do with anything? Dejanay did it. At least that's what we've been led to believe. And even if you don't need the other Cabo6 to testify, because they've already told the story. Between Nasir, the maid, and the doctor, somebody moved the body. So who is it? Put charges on everybody. You guys all assisted. That's what they usually do, at least in America. They charge everybody. You guys were all responsible. Who wasn't? Speak up. If not, y'all all go into jail because you guys were co-conspirators. Do they not have these laws in Mexico? Can they not do this? I feel like we've been patient long enough. I feel like we 100% need some action. It's time to bring this case home, demand that it stays there. There are legal laws. There is legal precedence. There's FBI procedure. The law and time is on our side. So again, why not? Why not? Why not? You guys, let me know in the comments, and please just keep in mind, I've already cited the criminal code. If you guys want more information, please go watch my older videos, but the criminal code is there. The legal precedence is there. The federal precedence is there. The FBI procedure is there. But if we demand that she be prosecuted here, I think people might listen. Let me know what y'all think in the